Hey, it's Ken Gagne with YouTube channel Gamebits for IndieSider, where I play indie games and then talk to the developer. This week I'm playing Pac-Man 256, a mobile free-to-play game for iOS and Android. Obviously, I'm doing things a little bit different this week, twofold. One, Pac-Man 256, an indie game published by Bandai Namco? Well, yes, this game violates the rule for IndieSider, which is that the game must be self-published. I am nonetheless going to speak with the indie studio who made the game and get their perspective on what it means to be an indie game. Also, I've already done a Let's Play of this game, and it's through that video that the developer reached out to me to ask to come on the show. So rather than again describe to you what this game is and how it works, I'm going to link to that previous 10-minute Let's Play I did. You're welcome to watch that video, check out this game, watch it be played. I describe all the mechanics, how it works, and why. And then come back and watch this interview with Seon Rosenblum of 3 Sprockets. Joining me today is Mr. Seon Rosenblum of 3 Sprockets, IndieSider alumnus, having been on the show when we spoke about Fight the Dragon back in February. Welcome back, Seon.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you back. So last time, of course, we were talking about Fight the Dragon, your original IP, developed and published by 3 Sprockets. This time we're talking about Pac-Man, one of the most recognized video game characters in the world, having appeared in over 30 officially licensed spin-offs. The original game, which has produced over $2.5 billion in quarters through those slots over the years. And you're calling it an indie game?
Yeah, it's absolutely an indie game.
So explain that to me. In the very first episode of this podcast, I recognize that there are multiple definitions of indie game, and the one I chose to use for this show, almost arbitrarily, was a self-published game. Now, this game is developed jointly by Hipster Whale and 3 Sprockets, your company, and published by Bandai Namco. So what is your definition of an indie game?
Well, obviously, as you said, there's a lot of different definitions for indie game, and I think in this particular case with Pac-Man, Bandai Namco approached Hipster Whale and recognised that, they didn't come to go to Hipster Whale and say, hey, I want you to make this for us. They said, are you interested in making a Pac-Man game? And Matt from Hipster Whale and I have been friends for a very long time, and we've been looking at collaborating on a game for a very long time. And so we had a chat about it, and we thought, yeah, we could, definitely, it was a concern, but we thought we could definitely reinvent Pac-Man for the modern day, and we did it as an indie game. Like, it was I understand that Bandai Namco are a big AAA publisher, and they've got lots of different brands, but basically they said, here's our brand, and go for it, and that's what we did. So everything about the design, the development process, and everything was pure 100% indie. We were, it was like it was our own brand, and we were doing what we wanted to do with it. The only difference here is that obviously it's published by Bandai Namco, but obviously it's their brand, they own it, so they're of course going to publish it. So in essence, it's 100% indie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a work for hire deal. It wasn't Bandai Namco asking us to make their vision of the game. Everything about the vision and the development and the release has been indie.
And did Bandai Namco choose Hipster Whale because of Crossy Road being so similar to Frogger?
I'm not sure it was so much about Crossy Road being similar to Frogger, more that the Hipster Whale guys had proven that they could take a really simple game idea and make it so sticky it's unbelievable, right? And not only that, but their drive to make a free-to-play game that was 100% fair and reasonable in a space where, the first complaint you ever hear is about, the monetization in free-to-play games. I think it just really stood out. They, from a creativity point of view, both visually in game and just in the way they engage their players in Crossy Road is extremely appealing. And I think Bandai Namco recognised that spark of genius there. And so they were curious to see what Hipster Whale could do with Pac-Man.
What was the division of labor between Hipster Whale and 3 Sprockets?
3 Sprockets we've done all the development work on the game, but from a design point of view, from a creating the whole, all the different aspects of the game, monetization, retention, design, virality and everything else. It was a joint effort. It was definitely a I mean, I won't call it 50-50 because obviously, there were some key elements in the game that, like, for instance, Matt came up with the glitch idea. We had other different mechanics in the game early on, things like hunger bars, and obviously, you prototype the game. So when we started out, just on a side note, when we started development on the game, we didn't have an idea at all about what the game was going to be. We knew it was Pac-Man and we wanted to stay true to the essence of Pac-Man. But other than that, we didn't have a plan. Like, the way we develop is purely through prototyping and trial and error. So, we'll develop something, try it, that's working, great, we'll keep refining it, that's not working, chuck it in the bin. Matt was actually in our office working, and we were trying to just, work out what we could do. What was the drive to push people up the level? And we tried all sorts of different things, and then Matt left for the day. He lives in rural Victoria, so he had almost a 2-hour drive to get home. And on his way home, he had this crazy idea. What if it was the glitch, from level 256 in the original Pac-Man? What if that's what was chasing you? And he came back in our office the next day and said, I've got this brilliant idea. And we all went, holy, am I allowed to swear? Holy shit. and we started implementing it, and it just worked. So there were a lot of aspects of the design that was collaborative, and there were some key elements that came from unique people in it. But all in all, it was very much I'm not sure the game would be the same game today if it didn't have all of us involved the way we did.
You mentioned how the concept of the 256 kill screen came about, but I'm nonetheless curious why you decided to do that, because the 256 kill screen, for longtime gamers or retro gamers like you and me, that is a well-known and established piece of video game lore. For the average gamer, it is something they've never heard of. It's a very esoteric piece of history. So how do you explain to people, oh, the thing that's chasing you at the bottom of the screen, well, you see 30, 40 years ago, you couldn't go past level 255 without it glitching, and now that's what's chasing you, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to a modern or younger gamer, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's a great gameplay mechanic, don't get me wrong, but the origin is very difficult to explain.
Sure. Okay, so the interesting thing about the 256 and the glitch portion of the game is it's not really... The origin story isn't really important to the gameplay. It's kind of there for the nod to the hardcore and older school gamers and the classic gamers, the people that know about it. But it's obviously the glitch chasing you is an important mechanic in the game, but it could have been anything other than a glitch as well, and it still would have worked. The fact is you're being chased by something, and all Endless runners have that mechanic in there. The idea of making it the glitch and calling the game Pac-Man 256 was absolutely a nod to the old school gamers, and we thought that was super important because new players can learn about what the glitch is if they want to. There's obviously been a lot of discussion in the press about the fact that we incorporated the glitch, and there's been a lot of explanation out there for people to learn if they didn't know. But knowing what the glitch wasn't important to being able to play and enjoy the game. So I think that was a really clever fit because it's a mechanic that people understand, even if they don't understand the history behind it.
No, that makes sense. Now, you talked a little bit about the monetization of the game and getting people to click ads. And I'm curious, is this Three Sprockets' first experience with a free-to-play game, with developing one?
Yeah, it's our first experience on this type of free-to-play game. And to be honest with you, the only reason we were willing to work on it was because it was with Matt and Andy, and it was a very different free-to-play game than what people are normally used to. As I said, Matt and I have been trying to collaborate on a game for a very long time, and we've never really found something that we both wanted to work on, because I've been pretty anti the whole free-to-play movement for a long time. I mean, we used to do a lot of mobile games, then we've moved on to PC, purely because I didn't want to compete in that free-to-play space. And making premium games on mobile, just 90% of the revenue made on the App Store these days is all free-to-play games. So it's really hard to make a living in the premium space. As soon as Crossy Road came out and it became evident that there was a way to do free-to-play that wasn't the bad way, call it the bad way, Just to be clear, the bad way makes way more money than our way, right? But it's all about making money and not about keeping players happy. And as soon as Matt and Andy showed that they can, that you could do free to play in a very different way, we were really keen to start looking at free to play again. So it was our first foray back in the free to play space, and it's actually been quite enjoyable learning about free to play in a new way and trying to, obviously Crossy Road and Pac-Man 256 are two very different games. They're not just the depth of Pac-Man 256 is a lot greater than you get in Crossy Road. Crossy Road's all about people obtaining vanity items that they change the look and feel of the game a little bit, but the gameplay is still exactly the same, whichever character you choose. Where in Pac-Man 256, it was I wouldn't call it a hardcore game, although there's definitely hardcore elements in there. But it's a much deeper game, and it's more about the gameplay and less about the vanity items. So it's been a much harder game for us to work out how to monetize. But to be fair, monetization wasn't... everyone wants to make money, sure, but monetization wasn't our main purpose for the game. The two main criteria for us was, A, could we do justice to Pac-Man? Could we keep the best elements of Pac-Man, but reinvent it for a generation that will enjoy it, and not just for a new generation, but for the older school people to find their love in it again? Could we do that, and could we do it in such a way that would allow for monetization but wouldn't be brute force? Could we be as fair in the game of Pac-Man 256 as Crossy Road is fair in terms of monetization for their player base? And that was our two things. And if we did that, we figured that hopefully money will come post that.
But in the process of making the game fair, you may have given away too much of it. For example, I have played the game for an entire week before I put any money into it. So I got hours of gameplay out of the game, and you got nothing out of me.
Yeah, shame on you. No, I'm just joking. That's what happens, right? Free to play it's a numbers game. As I said, we all, we want to make money. Bandai Namco want to make money out of it. We want to make money so we can continue developing it. It's, we all, a lot of game developers love being game developers, but we all have to feed our families and pay our mortgages and stuff. But it was really, we didn't want to put our first foot forward with, here's a really strong monetization plan. We really wanted to make a fair game. We wanted people to be able to play for free. We've got the credit system, which is our version of the energy gate that a lot of free-to-play games have. But the way most free-to-play games make money off those is they actually block you from playing when you run out of energy. And we just didn't want to do that. We thought we had a really fun, compelling game, and why would we say to you, you can't play it? That just doesn't make any sense to us. We want you to play it. Sure, we want you to come back. We don't want you to sit there for 8 hours a day playing it. We'd like you to play it every day over many weeks. But, we didn't want to put a barrier that said you can't play the game. We wanted to give you a compelling reason to play with credits and potentially watch ads and maybe buy unlimited credits. But we also wanted you to be able to play anyway. And we understand that, we've probably done ourselves out of some money doing that, but that wasn't our driving force behind it. It's not who Hipster Whale are. It's not who we want to be, who Sprockets wants to be in the free-to-play space. If that was our motivation, then we wouldn't have done free-to-play at all. So, and I think Bandai Namco really respect that about us as well.
I think that answers one of my other questions, because I saw a presentation by a developer of a social/mobile game, and one of his recommendations to developers is never limit players' opportunities to give you money. So, for example, in something like Farmville or World of Warcraft, there's always something more to buy. You never run out of things to buy. And in Pac-Man, at some point, I'm going to buy those unlimited credits for $8. I'm going to buy the coin doubler, and at some point, there's nothing left to buy. I've bought everything there is, pretty much. So it's almost like there is a finite market for this. But as you said, you want to give the players a good experience. You don't want them to feel like you're always coming back and asking for more and trying to tap them out. You want to give them the game, and after $8 or so, you've done that.
That's right. We could have very easily put coin packs in the game. I mean, that would be the most obvious thing. Like the fact that we don't let you, like when you use coins to upgrade your power-ups, we don't let you bypass the timers. We don't let you pay to accelerate that process, right? We could have done, that could have been the easiest thing for us to put in. We could probably triple to how much money we would have made so far in the game just by putting coin packs in the game. But it's just a mechanic that everyone's used to, but no one likes it. You know, that people use it and people expect it. But people don't generally like having to buy their way out of waiting. They just do it because they don't want to wait. And we didn't want to do that. Like, it was we understand that we've capped our earnings on the game. That's okay. That was one of the decisions we made to make sure that we built a game that was really fun and that people would enjoy playing and they would respect the game. You know what I mean? It's such an iconic brand. Like, I actually posted on my Facebook page yesterday. It's Monday morning here for me, and I pretty much worked all weekend on Pac-Man, working on a new update. And it occurred to me that I'd spent my whole weekend working again, you know. And then I thought, wow, you know, there's actually really nothing wrong with that. I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I'm getting to work on the most iconic brand in my industry, and I'm getting to work on it to reinvent it for a whole new generation of players, as well as existing players. And that's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And why would I want to do that, but do it in such a way that it became a financial barrier to people, or it became something that was about making money for enjoyment?
Why is there that timer when I upgrade my power-ups?
We want you to come back. We want you to enjoy the game over a longer period of time. We want you to have the thrill of, so not everyone turns on the notifications in game because people are used to getting spammed from notifications. So the first thing they do is say no. You know, if game says, hey, can we let you know about such and such? No. Click, right? But I'm an Apple fanboy, whatever. I've got an Apple Watch. And I sit and, I'll be playing and I'll go and upgrade a power up and it's got 3 hours on there. And so I go away. I don't keep playing. I'll upgrade my power up when I'm finished my session, and I'll go away and do something else. And in 3 hours, I get this little ping on my watch, and it says, hey, your bomb power up is ready. And I go, oh, cool. And I jump back in the game and I use it, right? I want to be excited about going back into the game to play. And so if I gave you the ability to just go in the game and say, okay, power up everything and pay a bunch of money and I've got it all, and I didn't have to wait for it. I had to spend money, but the money's gone, right? That's kind of like something I have to do. And now I've got all these power-ups that are all upgraded and I'm not actually getting enjoyment out of playing them anymore. Does that make sense? It's having to wait for something cool always makes the experience of getting it much better.
I mean, that's the same thing we teach our kids about Christmas. Anticipation makes it all the sweeter.
Absolutely. and you take something away, like if your kids could come up to you and say, hey, you know, if I give you $10, will you give me my Christmas present in June? And you said yes. Like, what does that mean for the Christmas present?
Would you believe I actually tried that as a kid? I actually said to my parents, I know you're giving me this new video game, so why don't I just give you the money for it now? And they said no, and I didn't understand because my father's a businessman. I'm like, why don't you see the percentage in this?
So that's exactly the point though, right? So what would have happened was your dad would have made some money, yeah, and you would have totally lost the build-up and anticipation of getting the present. It would have been something that you just got, as opposed like something that you paid for, something that, you know, like that's the whole point. So there's a thing with free-to-play is that retention is really important to the game, and retention isn't about how long you play for, but in terms of in one session, but how often you come back. Like how many days in a row do you play, and how often do you come back, and you're still playing it in a week, and you're still playing it in a month. And one of the best ways to make people come back is to not give them everything at once and not let them buy their way in to have everything at once, because then it's over. Like you get everything at once and you play with it all, and you, rather than spending an hour playing with a cool power-up you just got, you spend 2 minutes playing with all the power-ups, like 2 minutes each, don't get to enjoy them properly, and then you move on to your next game. So, And one thing that's also kind of important with free-to-play is the virality of your game. You know, how willing are you to share your experience with other people? And you find that the longer you play for, the more willing you are to share your experience with other people. Right? If you get a really cool game and go, oh, this is awesome, I'm playing this right now, you're in the middle of playing and you're not thinking about telling your friends about it. But if you're still playing the game 3 or 4 days later, you're more likely to tell your friends. So there's a lot of reasons why we have the timers in there, that they're not designed to frustrate people. They're designed to help with the retention and the replayability of the game. And that's exactly the reason why we don't let you bypass them with money. You know, again, that would make us a lot more money, like considerably more. But it would also ruin the experience for you. You might not think so if you want to buy your way in, but it does actually ruin the experience for you. And then it's also less likely that you'll share your experience to other people.
Yeah, I can see that. The way I do it is I play my game and I use up my 6 credits, and then I go spend all my coins, because at that point, I can't use the power-ups anyway. I've run out of credits, so that lets me know that next time I turn the game on, I'm going to have credits and upgraded weapons. So I do all my shopping at the end, basically.
That's right. And if you still really want to play, you can play free play, right? Because you're not, you're upgrading your power-ups anyway, so you can't use them while they're upgrading, but we still let you keep playing. And it's actually quite interesting how many people enjoy playing free play as well as playing with power-ups, because they consider that as a kind of like playing classic Pac-Man, as opposed to playing the new Pac-Man with power-ups. But the fact that we still let you do that and don't say you must come back later, but what we say is if you want to use this power-up, you have to come back later. So I think we're being very fair about how we do it.
Yeah, I think so. That doesn't stop you from getting complaints, though. I saw one from Dan Kotke, Apple employee number 12, he wrote a blog post wishing that free-to-play games had a timed trial or a timed demo version, which I thought was a strange complaint. I can see why you would want a timed trial version of some games where you pay up front, but a game like Pac-Man 256, it essentially does have a free version that you can download and try before you buy it, so I'm not exactly sure what his complaint was.
He probably isn't even aware that there's a free play button there. One of the things we've done in one of our updates, it's sitting in the review queue for iOS at the moment, but it's already out on Android and Amazon, is we flash that free play button. If you run out of credits and you go to click on the Play One credit and it comes up with a screen saying, hey, look, you need to buy credits. People see that and they think, oh, so now I have to pay and I can't continue playing anymore. And when they close that, they don't notice the free play button. So we flash that now to draw your attention to it. Because it was never we don't hide the button. Sure, it's a smaller button, but we don't make it small to hide it. We just make it small because our expectation is that people are going to want to play with credits. You know, whether they're paying for them, where we're generating for free, they still want to play with credits. So I don't think Coddle even realised that you could play for free.
No, you're probably correct.
It was actually funny, the IGN playthrough that they did when the game first came out. You know, they were talking about the game and they were playing it, and then they ran out of credits, and they were discussing how the fact that they had to now pay for credits or wait. And while they were talking about that, the guy went to click on his power-ups and missed the power-ups and clicked on the free play button by accident, and suddenly he was playing the game. And then he realised that you can continue playing the game for free without credits. And it never occurred to him through the whole discussion leading up that you could do that. And we're so close to the game, and we developed it, we designed it, collectively we've clocked up, tens of thousands of hours playing, and it never occurred to us at all that people wouldn't realise you could play for free. So we've done a bit of work to try to make that more obvious in the future updates.
Can you tell me other ways in which the game has changed or will be changing through updates since its release?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we plan to add more power-ups. We've got some really cool ideas for future power-ups. But beyond that, it's, we're keeping things pretty close to our chest, just like we did with our release date. I think it was probably one of the most anticipated releases because we managed to keep our secret, the launch date secret for like weeks and weeks coming up to launch. It was pretty funny. We were busting at the seams to tell everyone what the date was. and every single person that like press got their hands on the game early, and they were playing it, and they were told, say whatever you want about the game, but you can't talk about the release date. And it was, every comment entry on every blog post was when's it coming out. It was a pretty funny thing. But yeah, like we just all decided that in terms of moving forward with the game, we'll keep everything quiet till we're ready to talk about it. We're not trying to be secretive for the sake of being secretive. We just want to focus on what the things are going to be and surprise people when they see them.
So speaking of new weapons, there are 16 so far in the game, and I'm wondering what's your favorite?
My favourite. I have to say, I mean, I love the laser. I think the laser's almost all of our favourites, and that's why we made it the first one that people collect. There's just something really cool. Especially, like, I've got the very first power-up that I upgraded all the way to level 8 was a laser to get it, for the longest period of time. And there's just something enjoyable about zapping ghosts right up the top of the screen with a laser. Like, you can even zap them when you can't see the ghost yet. Like, if the maze goes up far enough. So I really love that. But I think the most enjoyable for me is the bomb. Because the bomb's a tricky one. You can... Obviously, when it goes off, it'll kill any ghosts that are within the radius. And that's actually quite hard to do. Like, you need to manipulate what you're doing at the time to maximize how many ghosts you can kill. And sometimes that works in your favor, and sometimes, you miss, and you try to get the, bunch of 8 or 9 ghosts at a time, but you end up only getting 1 or 2. I mean, the fact is you never die. Like, you're invulnerable while you've got the bomb, and if you do hit a ghost, it goes off. But sometimes you're so busy trying to manipulate the level to actually kill as many as possible that you end up killing fewer than you would have. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I've got to say, one of my other favourite ones, and a lot of people, I don't think that they quite get it, is the freeze. So not all of our power-ups kill ghosts, and that's by intent. But the freeze seems like, kind of underwhelming because all it does is slows ghosts down. But the freeze is actually really interesting because you can use it really to your advantage to, like, if you get the freeze at the right time, you can freeze ghosts in positions that gives you a really good run to get like a 256 dot chain. But you can also backfire and pick up a freeze at the wrong time and realise that all the ghosts that you're frozen are blocking all the intersections and you can't get out and you trap yourself. So I really love that whole mechanic with our power-ups that, they're, obviously the ones that just kill ghosts, great, but some of the other ones can work for you or against you if you're not being careful.
That's exactly what happened to me with freeze. I used it and realized that there was no way out, and I haven't used the freeze since.
Right, but you should keep going with it because it's quite effective. Because it'll freeze all the ghosts on the screen at once, and because you can stop yourself when you're moving. Like, if you move into a corner, you can stop and wait. So as long as it's safe to do so, you can actually use freeze to time it in such a way that you can give yourself a really good run. Where you can pick up 50 or 60 or even close to 100 dots during an extended freeze just by picking it up at the right time. So I encourage you to go back and keep playing with it. I love the power-ups you need to learn how to use. I mean, the game's quite deeper than a lot of people think at the start. Think it's just Pac-Man and it's endless. There's a lot of depth to the game in terms of learning how to play really well. Some of the first things are, for instance, the ghost behaviours. Every ghost has got a unique behaviour, and once you learn what behaviours are, you can manipulate them. Like the pink ghost. Like, everyone thinks the pink ghosts are the worst. Like, they just, they're the bane of everyone's existence. But they're actually the easiest ghosts to manipulate. You can, because they're 100% predictable and you know exactly where they're going to go to when you trigger them moving. So you can force, and they won't stop moving until they get there. So you can kind of do it like a left feint and make a pink ghost start moving. And once he's moving, you're free to move around him on the right. And once you've gone past him, if you're not in line of sight anymore, he won't chase you anymore. Once people learn how to manipulate the ghosts to get around them, it becomes really, really enjoyable. And what you get is a lot of those really close shaves. Like, for instance, you'll be going for a power-up and there'll be a red ghost or a black ghost coming at you, or even a pink ghost, which moves faster than you. And you eventually learn how far you can get before they can get you, and whether you'll be able to pick up that power-up or not. And sometimes, I still miss sometimes, like I'll, miss by half a second, or sometimes I'll just get the power up in time and I feel like, totally exhilarated because I, outsmarted the ghost. But it's there's a lot of enjoyment in learning the aspects of the game.
I will say the laser is not only one of my favorite weapons, it's also one of the best selling points for the game. When I was showing Pac-Man 256 to a friend of mine, an old school gamer, he watched me play and he said, "Did Pac-Man just fire a laser out of his mouth?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a classic example of, Bandai Namco trusting us trusting us with their brand. I don't know if there was ever really any discussions about the level of respect that we had to give the game. We knew in ourselves that we had to give the game a lot of respect. But the fact that they let us do things like make a laser shoot out of Pac-Man's mouth, which has just never been done before, right? Or, turn Pac-Man into a bomb. Or even the fact that when he goes into stealth mode and you make him purple. I mean, the fact is, he's a purple Pac-Man. I mean, have you ever seen a purple Pac-Man before? They let us really, experiment with the brand to make a really compelling game. And I give them, a lot of kudos for that, because a lot of companies wouldn't allow you to do things like that with their brand. So, there's a level of trust there that I felt we earned over time. Because obviously, as I said, we've been working on the game for quite a while. And so there was Bandai Namco had seen a lot of progress from the very start, but they were pretty much blown away from the very first prototype we gave them. And, everyone just got comfortable in the fact that we were allowed to experiment a bit with the game and with the brand and see how far we can push different things. And it's just worked out really well.
And the game seems to be being well received. I've seen it being reported on by a variety of websites. My Let's Play video that I did for YouTube has gotten a lot more hits than other videos I do. It seems like you have a hit on your hands. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're pretty happy. We're just about to hit 7 million players in, it's been about 9 days from launch, I think. So, which is pretty fantastic for us. We hit 5 million players within our first week. Didn't quite hit the number one spot in the US, unfortunately. Got stuck behind Happy Wheels at number 1, and we hit number 2. But I think we ended up getting the number 1 spot in somewhere between 56 and 80 countries around the world, if you look at iPad and iPhone as well. So, we were wrapped with launch. It was, blew our minds that people just got the game and, press understood the game, and the responses we were getting from people straight up was that, here's a reinvention of Pac-Man that's extremely familiar, but is new and fresh. And that everyone, and the other concern was that, what would people say about the monetization? Because there was an expectation that because it was coming from the Crossy Road makers, that it would be exactly the same as Crossy Road, that you'd have all these different characters in there and that you'd be able to buy characters. So people were expecting just Crossy Road Pac-Man. And it wasn't. We knew it wasn't going to be that from the start. That would have been the wrong way to go for us for Pac-Man. So it was, we were a little anxious about how people would accept the monetization of the game. And straight up, all the sites that were covering it from the start, just they got it, they understood it, and I thought it was really fair. And and people have been loving it. We've been following it on Twitter. I think for the first 24 hours, maybe 2 hours on the launch day, and I was just like watching my Twitter lists, with all the hashtag Pac-Man 256 going through and all the people posting the scores. We never trended, we never made the top 10 trending, which was disappointing. That would have been a nice goal for me. I think Crossy Road hit the trending list when it first launched. So that would have been nice, but
So since you were last on this show to talk about Fight the Dragon, I have to wonder, this game, Pac-Man 256, has pretty much consumed your life, especially in the past week. Are you able to give Fight the Dragon any love, or has it sort of been set aside just for the short term?
We did set it aside a little bit while we were developing Pac-Man 256, but we actually managed to push out one of our biggest updates ever a week ago on Fight the Dragon, which obviously is a long time after launch. We officially launched out of early access or version 1 in December last year. And we've been, tinkering with it. We've been pushing, updates here and there since then. I think we've done about 5 or 6 updates, but the one we pushed last week was one of our biggest updates ever in the game, which was a shock for our community because they weren't expecting it. Both from the fact that, they knew we were working on Pac-Man. We were quite open about that on our forums. but also just to get such a large update so long after launch is fairly unexpected. It's not something that you normally see out of a game. So yeah, we've given it a bit of love, but we're also probably coming close to the end of our development cycle for Fight the Dragon. It's been out for quite a while now, and by all counts, to us, it was an absolute outstanding success. Probably in every category other than financial, right? It wasn't terrible financial, but we probably all up maybe broken even overall in terms of what it cost to develop, and the fact that it sucked almost 2.5 years of our time to get it to where it is now. But in terms of building a game that built a community that allowed people to create and realize their own, desires in wanting to build content, well, we definitely succeeded well beyond our expectation. And the fact that we've still got a much smaller community, but still a very active community on Steam, people playing the game and people building content every day, I think it's just a testament to that. I can't say I would ever want to make a game of that scale again, though. Not for a while.
No, there are many kinds of success, and it sounds like between Pac-Man and Fight the Dragon, you've gotten to experience many kinds of success. So again, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's it's obviously Pac-Man 256 is a totally different game in a totally different space, and an opportunity to work on something that gives us enjoyment for other reasons. But yeah, it's awesome being a game developer.
And it's awesome being a gamer. So thank you so much for these games, and thank you for giving us your time to talk about them.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.